Alrighty, first football draft stream of the 2026 season. Of course, underdog moves so hot and heavy. The second I jump in, this draft is getting ready to go. All right, let's do it to it. Who am I? The girl named Sugar. Big Johnny Stud. Follow me up on Twitter at John Legaza Flow. Sharper than a damn razor. Got the big board up. Let's do our friends a solid and hide those names. Again, you follow me on Twitter. That'll bring you over to Substack, where $2 a week get you 5 pounds of shit in a 2-pound box. Sorry, doing a little bit of the stammer thing. Wasn't quite ready. Again, basketball moving so hot and heavy right now. Really excited. This is my first draft of the year. If you sign up to the Substacks, we have color-coded, uploadable best ball ranks. Of course, this thing is moving fast as shit. I'm going to actually show those really quick. Those are up on the board if you're following along. Again, just all the stuff that you need with all the pertinent fantasy stats all at once. Fantasy points per game, attempts, yards, and TDs. I'm going to add projections when that shit is ready. Yeah, let's go. I mean, I'm so psyched for football. I know I'm like the MLB guy, but the best ball bros, I don't know. Like they say, if you can't join them, beat them, I guess. All right, let me pop back over to that other tab. Of course, I'm still getting used to my best ball brain going on. All right, I think there we go. Draft pretty much going maybe how you'd expect. You know, all the big names in the first round. I try not to, not say break ADP, but go too far off of course to start. I'm just getting my beak wet here. I like to battle test my own ranks. Make sure that they're up to par. The goal is to be able to leave them on auto. You know what I mean? And just kind of draft. DK would have to institute some kind of conditional thing. And if you follow my work, thank you. If not, the Twitter handle and the Substack, there's like a free look at everything. You know, I'm not trying to blindside anybody. Get a look at what's going on. Because, you know, these markets are really moving fast. I think you want to be using ranks. If anything, I'm doing the job of cleaning out all the bullshit. But what I was getting at is I generally rank in positional tiers. At the top, it's, you know, it may be mixed and matched by position. But then afterwards, it really kind of settles into the way that I want or think people should be drafting. Or grab somebody from this group, grab somebody from that group, and then you could follow the rankings or know that if somebody is one or two people off, then that's a perfectly fine direction to go in. Again, everything pretty much going according to plan here. I like that new picks away line that they added. Shout out to Underdog. I also love that they've added that my rank next to ADP so you could flip back and forth between, you know, where the market is and where we might be. If you jump onto the stack, your ranks will update in real time with my own as I clean out injuries and move stuff when we get player news or just, you know, opinions change or the market changes and we don't want to be too high or low depending on the diversity in portfolio we're trying to build. That's something I'll probably address on its own. And it always is such an interesting conversation on how diverse you want to be. And I'm not sure there's an actual answer because you'd need to know who's going to get hurt in order to do that. All right, so with my first pick, I took JSN. I'll come back to diversity in a second. JSN, man, picks it down to 20 seconds now. Gotta love that shit. You know what? I'm getting kind of high on my Jets. I'm going to jump ADP for Hall. I know that's early. Maybe I should have went McBride. But right now I'm just kind of drafting. Not say blind. I'm just drafting by my own, on my own. I don't care. I don't want to be influenced by the best ball bros. I don't give a crap whatsoever. I kind of did my ranks. I want to see how it shakes out. If you get to the end of these, for the record, this is a puppy. So, just kind of keeping the risk low. I'm going to end up doing 1,000,000 of these drafts. By the time it's all said and done, I'll eventually get into all BBMs. But I just want to clean it up first. So he didn't make it back. I was kind of looking at McBride, but the pick I wanted in the third, and this is why I took Hall, and you should always kind of be thinking downstream, is I think I wanted to stab at Travis Etienne, or now it's everyone is Etienne, in the third. So that's where I'm going. Hall and Etienne. I want start RBs. New Orleans on the tick up. They believe they found their answer at quarterback with Tyler Shuck, who I like is actually running a little bit. It makes a good pair with Etienne also, who's shown chops on both sides of the ball. People are going to bitch about efficiency. That's one thing that totally changes when you move. I don't know what kind of creativity we're going to see in the Saints run game, but I do think he's in line to basically dominate workload. I got to bring up the depth chart for the Saints right now. I'm not even sure what it looks like. I mean, Kamara's still floating around. Who cares? we actually want him there. Then Kendre Miller, but returning from injury. Devin Neal, the seam. Ty Chandler is out there. There's not a really big threat for work. And remember, the days of the 35 touches a game, that shit's long gone. So you're just looking for the vast majority, but also the best split into high value touches. And I think Etienne is all of that. Again, I think he's going to be the feature back. I love the fast track there and all the fast tracks as you get into the weeks where, scoring matters. I always have my question marks about the defense of the NFC South as it is. But really, all that's to say, I think right now, as I was doing my ranks, I want to be RB heavy. That doesn't mean you need one in the first. I wasn't going to jump over JSN, Jamar Chase, or Puka, for any of the other first-round backs. I'm just noticing that James Cook went in the middle of the first, and I didn't know that. I didn't realize that was a thing. So, shame on me. That's a little bit too early for him, in my opinion. I'd much rather have the JSN, the pure alpha receiver, who can move around. I mean, he's pretty much matchup-proof. He's pretty much split-proof. He's a part of every game plan. Meaning, if they got ahead, it's on his back. If they're falling behind, they're going to catch up through him. To get him at the 3 kind of feels like a steal, but Gibbs and Bijan belong at 1, too. So, top 3 picks are going to be awesome. If you end up with 3, like I did here, I think you want to go running back. I'm trying to get away from the temptation of the onesie, right? They're going to be singing that siren song. And it's been a killer for me. Not to say necessarily overdraft, but to prioritize quarterbacks and tight ends. One, you have to make sure that the rest of the pack doesn't keep up with you, or that blows the whole thing out of the water. I'm on the board again. I'm looking at Jameson Williams, Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle. I guess they all have some flaws. I think I'm going to go Waddle to dominate all the underneath stuff for Denver. I know we're a little bit worried about the Knicks return, but even with the backup, I think the slot receiver is probably in the best hands. Waddle, a good combination of ceiling and floor. Maybe the ceiling is a little bit lacking, especially depending on the Knicks stuff. I think that's going to be baked into a 4th round wide receiver price. I was hoping for Ladd McConkey to fall back, though. I think the Chargers just brought in Njoku, which is going to put a little bit of strain with a guy like Gaston already there. I was hoping maybe Loveland would fall back to me. He did not. But I'm also trying just not to prioritize the onesies. I think that's where that's where I've at least lost. Because again, the field, that's what I was mentioning. You need the field to not keep pace with you. Man, I already had my eyes on McLaurin at the pick before. I think I'm going to go back to him. T-Mac kind of wide receiver 1 profile. We get Jaden Daniels back. I want to not be so focused on what's happened in the past and, go where we think the puck is going, not where it's been. Lamar Jackson went right after me. Listen, after pick 50, he's very hard to turn down. I get it. But right now, I'm just trying to kind of stick to the meta, the kind of foundational stuff, that maybe I've discerned or my initial hypotheses, and that was, to stay away from the running backs and tight ends and quarterbacks. I think there's going to be a ton of them to choose from later on. And then also remember, there has to be a push and pull with draft capital. And when you take the onesies early, it kind of throws it out of whack. That also goes back to the point about injuries that I made, which makes basketball such a hard game. There's only 18 picks for anybody that maybe hasn't played before. I love it. It's great. You get to have your football brain on. It's a puzzle that you can't miss out on because someone else can outwork you in season. For us that are busy doing baseball or even doing family or both, fantasy can be tough in season. So best ball, here it is. That's it. They even have low price points like this one, the puppy. They have $3 and $5 contests to pay several $1,000s up front. Up top, granted, it's a lottery ticket. You probably need to play volume. Most people are. To that point, I was listening to my guy, Pete Overzet. He works with me over at Barry Fantasy Life. Or I should say I work with it. I work with him from the bottom of the totem pole. But the number of people who draft either on mobile and or without ranks is basically staggering. So where I wasn't sure if you had an edge using my ranks immediately, you absolutely do. Just based on staying with the trend, because the ADP is not going to move as fast as, our altered opinions with new data or more research, and just eliminating the injured guys. It's shocking how and where, how often and where these guys get drafted. We're 2 picks away. I have my eye on one certain pick. Now, I know it says live, but I'm not actually live. I wanted to make sure I didn't botch this in real time. My guy is probably not going to be there. I'm 1 away, and I'm starting to sweat. He went, of course. I got sniped on Bashal Tootin at 69. That was the back I was hoping for. You MFer. Won't call him out, but I get it. That was my pick as well. I think I'm going to go with his teammate and Parker Washington, who we saw the top side from. And it's hard not to be worried about the wide receiver depth chart in Jacksonville. The Travis Hunter thing, listen, you could keep trying to make that happen. I'm not going to. Brian Thomas, we've already seen fail and could be moved on. Where I really think it's Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington. We love the environment. We like to step forward from the QB. Have Cohen at the switch. So I think there's a lot there to like. Things are starting to dry up a little bit. We're now in the 7th. I'm thinking about QBs. Man, Caleb Williams is out there. He might be a little bit hard to pair. Maybe we could find something later on. But I think I'm going to go with Caleb because you're going to get a little bit of running. You're going to get a little bit of everything. And sometimes, even though I mentioned not prioritizing, sometimes that pendulum can swing too far the other way. And not get a guy that you think could be a pretty projectable top 5 QB on a weekly basis. And I think Caleb has that. We'd like to see him do a little bit more in the first 3 quarters, but he is a young man, and there could be a step forward here. It's more than feasible to ask and even project a step forward with the draft capital. And again, you have Ben Johnson, you're in a great spot. So I'm starting to put together a pretty good team. I guess they're not really correlated that well, which does matter in best ball, does matter for spike weeks, but it's not a disqualifier, and I think sometimes it gets treated that way. So I'm not trying to put down all the best ball bros, but like I said, they're not going to have me. I just have to fucking forget about it. I know award nominations and shit like that, and $3 to get you on the fucking subway over here, but legit, I got nominated for NFL fucking Fantasy Writer of the Year. I haven't even had a single person fucking speak to me, let alone hey, you want to come and bullshit? So forget it. You know what I mean? We're going to do it our way. Know what I mean? Jelly bean. Boom, we're looking for that. Added a couple too many sound effects here. That's my that's my podcasting partner as a soundboard while I try and steal drinks. Anyway. So I don't want to demean stacking because the best ball bros are right. If you could stomach listening to fucking Vocal Fry and a lot of shows that have really devolved into fucking children's shows, honestly. Because I think people have become, or at least a lot of analysts and content creators, have become a little too reliant on projections. And I think, projections are good and like we should be using them. But I also think, and this happens with baseball a lot. Sorry, I took a second to adjust the draft board so it doesn't get away from us, and I think I went a little too far. It's not moving that fast. I think people relying on projections is correct. However, right, always the pendulum swing, and always is something we talk about in betting all the time, is it has to do with pricing. So I think the projections can front run the markets a little too hot. People who are wed to the projections end up auto smashing by the number. Where if you were look at things on more of a range of outcome basis, or in football case, the case of football, I should say, a spike week case, because there was something about that, right? We don't necessarily want compilers, right? The RB6 overall, there's always an RB5 every year who just played every game. It wasn't that good. When you want the per game guys that you're hoping can stay healthy. So I think there's actually a lot of value to going against the market, which is really difficult because it's so sharp. Now, I'm getting into where I had my quarterbacks if I didn't have one, but I do. And I'm starting to look at tight ends. There's one left that I want, and I'm worried I'm going to get sniped again by the same dude. I did not. He fell. And though I'm worried about the QB situation greatly, I think Harold Fannin has shown he's a smash for a tight end one. So I've got my onesies filled in, but I waited until 7 and 8 to do it, Caleb and Fannin. Again, more back end guys, but I'm not trying to punt it. But what I was getting at, I don't think I summed it up properly, is when you prioritize the onesie positions in best ball, and you're looking at things in terms of draft capital because there aren't enough spots, 18 spaces, you can only take one more tight end or one more quarterback. That's what I was getting at with having to be able to predict injuries in order to prioritize these guys. So I think this is the point that is not necessarily being made in the best ball space right now. That I know people do take their hard stands on it, and I've usually been a running QB, elite QB guy, and it hasn't served me that well. Okay, I'm going back to running backs. I really like Corum here in the 9th. We've seen the Rams start to get away from Kyron, who I think is being overdrafted a bit into what maybe feels like more of a committee to me. Damn, I can't really swap back and forth with the draft board of my stats. I wanted to show up some of the stats, the advanced stuff that you get when you sign up to the Substack. Forget all the baseball. Just go look. If you're into baseball, it's every goddamn thing you can think of. This is included with it. And once we get into the regular season, I do a column at The Athletic for waiver wire. I started doing my in-season fantasy stuff, even though I knocked it a little bit. I like to play fewer leagues for higher money. That's just my style because of the time. But again, I'm all about time and saving you that. But best ball ranks always updated, risers and fallers. I'm going to be doing some articles, but then I also do weekly projections with all the advanced stats and stuff. EPA, man, success rates. Very hard to get it for as cheap as I offer. Remember, it's $2 a week, but if you sign up for the full year, you get the last month for free. So it ends up being $88 a year. If you're at all serious about this shit, like betting football player props, high stakes fantasy, like this is absolutely going to be worth it. Plus the show, we're doing game by game breakdowns. If you are unfamiliar with my game, oh man, I'm telling you, I'm really psyched. Oh yeah, let's go, man. This is not madness, baby.
This is Sparta!
case you were unfamiliar, we are fantasy and betting's version of 300. Give the book nothing, take from that bitch everything. All right, I should probably be paying a little bit more attention to the board now, right? My ranks are starting to diverge a little bit. I'm a little less familiar with what's going on back here. Now that I have, my QB tight end, someone would really have to fall. I'm thinking of switching to ADP here, and it's getting a little bit hairy. I don't know, Rabbit. I got one guy I have in mind. He's folded a little, folded a little bit past ADP. I'm worried he's going to get snatched up. I've got 2 picks to go, 1 more to go. And for some reason, I just don't want to put it out into the ether, even though this is not live. But I'm hoping Romeo Dubs falls to me at pick 118. The guy in front of me has cracked me twice. He went with Jonathan Brooks on the Panthers, so you're missing me with that, dog. You got to show me that this guy could take a hit or carry a football before we get there. So I'm going to go Dubs for the Patriots. I think, it's a little bit unexciting, but he feels like the true number one. We've seen him have blow-up games on a low-volume offense. I expect to have quite a bit of Romeo Dubs this draft season. You got to love underdog. These drafts just totally fly, man. It's the best. Again, they don't pay me. Maybe they should. Now, let's see. Now, again, it's starting to get a little bit hairy. Now I might be looking to pair a running back, but mine were all gone. I took Brees Hall maybe a little bit early. His pairs are later. I have Achane. His pairs are later. I have Corum. His pair is earlier. I see maybe Chris Rodriguez out there. The other side of that Jacksonville committee. Kenneth Gainwell just went. He was somebody I was looking at. Maybe Tyler Algier, Woody Marks. It's a little bit early for these guys. I'm just trying to talk through the guys that I might like. Juwan Jennings is there. Nayuk, Stephon Diggs. Man, I ended up with Chris Rodriguez because I was a little bit too slow. I ended up on the back end of a 5 RB run, and I wanted to thicken that because I feel like I have a pretty good balance in the wide receiver room. JSN, Waddle, McLaurin, Parker Washington, Romeo Dubs, a pretty good mix of ceiling and floor, and that's what you get when you don't overpay. Man, I want to be careful saying overpay. I'm not trying to IKB everybody here. But when you don't pay the premium for the QB or the tight end, it allows you to fill up the other skill positions. And then, like I said, it also allows you to get a third player, right? This is the point I keep trying to get to and I keep missing on. But it's the truth. When you take a Lamar or Josh Allen, you have to draft as if you're right. And because you put so much of draft capital into that position, you can't take the third player because of the opportunity cost of those other guys. Now, you could make that argument in something like Drafters or DraftKings. They play 20 rounds. Drafters is really cool because I don't even think you could adjust your ranks. You're in there, on your own, dog. You might be able to shift them around in the draft room, but I don't think you can upload them. DraftKings, now you can upload them. I'm going to have them coming. I'm still working on trying to sync all this stuff because you got to understand, right? To do fantasy rankings, you make a million moves. I need them to sync. I know they're a little bit different, but I'd rather them sync and then me make the little bit of adjustments and have to make 100 moves and have to make 100 moves. And I don't want people saying, hey, you're over 30 picks off here and not there. So DraftKings on the way right now. Consider these best ball ranks. Even though they are ready to upload in Underdog, I'm going to have all that stuff taken care of. Again, it's pretty early. I'm going to be spending, it looks like, the early part of my week right now. My baseball schedule's changed this year. So the back end is so overloaded. Again, if you're interested in baseball, check it out. We are over-delivering and undercharging. But the beginning of the week, I'm going to be focusing on football. All my re-racks and the streams and stuff. Again, hop on. Paid subs get full priority for keeper questions and breakdowns or explaining the sheets. Again, you got to see that they're really, really good. Now we're getting back to me in the 12th. I'd really be thinking about a second quarterback. I'm really hoping that Willis falls to me. The guy in front of me already has 2, but he got me panicked after clipping me earlier on. I'm going Malik Willis if he's there, and he's the last kind of running quarterback that might run and get you those spikes. But man, I'm sweating because if not, you're into the Darnold, Brissett, Bryce Young, Fernando Mendoza territory. A little bit scary. He went Travis Hunter, which I think is kind of a poor pick. I'm going to go Willis, but just let the clock run out. Man, these 20-second clocks are streaming gold. I'm going to be banging these out, man. Awesome. I think next time I'll probably start to stream before the draft, and they fill so fast. Gosh, I wish MLB baseball had this kind of love. So I now have Malik Willis to go with Caleb Williams. You know what? It's like a little, it's a little funky, a little bit of a funky monkey, but you can see where it comes from. And we get to add a third guy. So I'm here and there. I could kind of go in any direction that I want. Again, I like to pair tight ends and quarterbacks. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that with Williams and Willis. I guess maybe I could get like a Dulcich or whatever. Not really that interested. I have Brenton Strange up. I know people like Kenyon Sadiq. He's right there. Sadiq's going in front of Strange, which I don't really get. I'd rather have the tight end that's not on the Jets. Not on the Jets, really. Okay, let me see if anybody's kind of sticking out as far as ADP. Man, the other pick right here. All right, I'm going to take the CLV pick. And the CLV pick is Juwan Jennings, who's now with the Vikings, but there hasn't been a move, and I think there should have been. So I'm going to add what I think could be, I think he kind of bumps Addison a bit. Addison is the guy I'm worried about that they brought in Jennings. I think Jennings has shown to be really strong on the outside. He can eat up a lot of underneath possession type stuff. And also be a big boost to the run game. So I think you're going to get a lot of snaps and potential volume out of Jennings. And then, heaven forbid, I hate to put this stuff into the universe. If, J-Jeff goes down, Jennings has filled in as a wide receiver 1 on the outside. I don't think he's a 1v1 replacement at all. But you want at least, the potential for a role upgrade in the event of... That felt about right. So this team is filling out pretty nicely. I don't have a very good late backup plan right now. I'm just kind of looking for players that I think I want to roster. I've got 2 quarterbacks. I'm not going to pay up for backup tight ends. That just is what it is. Players that kind of stick out. I think the one that stuck out, it just went. Okay, Sadiq just went with Strange. That was kind of to be expected. For some reason, Tyler Algier is all the way back here. I guess people are not digging the love thing. But I don't know. He could be the touchdown guy. If you're stealing touchdowns from Bijan Robinson, I'd imagine you're stealing touchdowns from a rookie. So if Algier makes it back to me, that's where I'm going to go. I also like Dylan Sampson back here, right? You have some injury concern. And with Judkins in front of him, but, it's a long season. They like to run. He's really talented. I wonder if I should take the stab on Mendoza over Sampson. I'm definitely going Algier if he's there. I wonder if there's another tight end that maybe I like. The guys that I like are really going much later. I like Gunnar Helm late. And I liked it. Njoku, maybe Ferguson. And like I said, might go with the last round Dulcich to go with the Willis in case they have something. You want to be unique and you want to connect these guys. I'm afraid Algier is going to get sniped by our friend again. And if not, man, Ayuk is back here. I have Ayuk way up. I think he's going to go somewhere. Algier fell, and I think I'm going to go with him. When you get to the 14th round, I'm just kind of drafting talent. He went right behind Tajay Spears and Zach Charbonnet. And there's ceiling concerns there, plus injury concerns there. I know Algier has some environmental concerns, but I think that's baked into the price. Maybe it's time to look for that third QB. My Galaxy braiding Fernando Mendoza. part of me is thinking that like maybe Penix is going entirely too late, like entirely too late. But man, it gets ugly once you get all the way back there. It's really, really gross. So I feel like Mendoza might at least be like a late season play because I'm already gambling a lot. I think that's where I'm going to go if he doesn't get picked right in front of me. And I'm not necessarily on Mendoza. I'm not going to pretend to know shit about fuck when it comes to college stuff. I generally don't overpay for rookies. I either draft the late ones and look smart because I hit on them, or look smart because I paid very little and cut them, or I wait for them to get dropped because they sucked and then I swoop in. You know, on the dentist system, the Frank Reynolds, I swoop in with the Magnum condom. Oh my God, let's let's go. Shit. Damn right, shit. Damn right. All right, so now we're at Caleb Williams, Malik Willis, and Fernando Mendoza. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I would call it YOLO, but I'm asking for a lot. I have to hope Williams is my rock. You know, he's been really good, and you get a rushing floor, and you're looking for spikes from Willis and a back end surge from Mendoza. Running backs, Brees Hall, Travis Achan, Corum, Chris Rodriguez, and Tyler Algier. I'll tell you, I like that a lot because I like the TD equity, in particular on underdog. And I know I did kind of brush past sinking ranks between sites, and there should be a difference with half point and full point PPR. But to me, that's where the difference are. It's the biggest moves are the RB2s that get TD equity on underdog. You know, where Rodriguez and Algier, as much as we want Bashal and Love to be things, could be things and still lose all the TDs. And like it or not, that's a hard reality. Rodriguez and Algier are both proven to be able to get tough yards. Algier last year, I can't believe he had almost a half a fantasy point per snap last year. And even though it was low volume and the low attempts, again, that's what I was saying. Because he could get tough yards and was able to pull off a 44% success rate, which again is not like the best, but it was a half against 8-man boxes. Half of his attempts were against 8-man boxes. He's tough, has a nose for the end zone. That is a skill. So that's all stuff that I get. I have, you know, fantasy points, obviously, points per game, obviously, but points per snap, points per touch, all the rushing stuff, yards before contact, yards per attempt, EPA, success rate, explosive, how many 8-man boxes, how many negative attempts. I love that. Then, you know, passing stuff, both sides for receiving, for the running backs, yards per route. Of course, target rate, all that shit. It's a little more detailed for receivers, whopper, slot, zone, EPA, all the things that I think matter, plus all the goal line stuff, which again, high value identification is a major thing in fantasy. Gosh, these drafts are so fast. Could you believe where 33 minutes in the draft is almost freaking done, man? It's just crazy. All right, now I have to go back again to looking at like who I'm going to pick. I have no idea. Again, it's probably tight end time. I don't want to get clipped on Dulcich. I'm going to need a third, don't I? Probably waited a little bit too long. I wonder if Njoku is the play right now. I also really like Terrence Ferguson, but man, that's like a tough sell because of it's so okay. It is early. All right, everyone else has two tight ends. I probably didn't have to go for Dulcich. You know what? Okay, I'm going to go with Kayshon Boutte. One, I like the New England offense. I think it's being undersold, and I already have that Dubs piece. So in case, not to necessarily say it's like a handcuff, but in case the Dubs thing doesn't work, Boutte could be that, you know, the vertical guy. Anyway, I don't think Dub's going to be the vertical guy, but he has been very good in the red zone. And I think New England needed a reliable piece. I don't want to get back into Dubs too much. I think he's a better receiver than people gave him credit for because Green Bay was always so low volume. So I dropped back on Dulcich because, and this is basic strategy, but again, if you're a beginner and you're anywhere near the turn, I felt like it was worth gambling that everybody between me already had two tight ends, that they were going to reach 20 picks for a guy like Dulcich. So I'm really hoping the Dulcich pick falls. If not, I'm going to go Njoku. He did fall, and he should have. So I'm going to go with Dulcich in the 17th. Again, it's a smidge early by ADP, but depending on, seeing where I am on the clock and on the draft board and where it would cost me. Now, part of me is like, oh crap, I wonder if I made a mistake. I made a quick shift at the end. You can't see that I did it. And I did it and it worked. I pushed up Braylon Allen over Dulcich. I'm going to let the market overpay for Dulcich. Right at the end of the day, I'd rather pay ADP for my running back handcuff than overpay for, again, what is like a risky kind of tight end on a team we're very iffy about with a quarterback that is a little bit unproven. Though I like him, we just like to be honest. And I didn't want to come off like I'm the type to be scrambling and smashing, like nervously picking. But I did do it in this case because I wanted one more RB to make the decision that there aren't enough tight ends to go with 3. I generally would have went with 3. But I think Fannin is going to get enough tight end 1 week, and hopefully Dulcich is the right complement. If I sucked anywhere, I think that's what it is. Maybe not being aggressive enough on my tight end 2. I'll take that loss. Again, Fannin could be the breakout pick. He already showed it in his rookie year. I mean, the stats are just ridiculous. Here, I'm going to bring him up with a quick search on my page. Fannin as a rookie, nearly, almost 200 fantasy points on like a crappy team. 0.43 fantasy points per route. I mean, he had over 100 targets. That's almost 7 targets a game, almost 25% target per route run, 1.7 yards per route. I mean, you love this man from a freaking tight end. And he was in the slot. He had almost 12 slot routes per game, 2.5 slot targets, 1.5 slot catches, 14 slot receiving yards per game, and 7 total slot touchdowns. So I'm going to need Fannin to continue that versatility, regardless of the quarterback. Hopefully, with one of the 18 quarterbacks they have, one of them is good and knows to throw it to their best player. But yeah, that's one of the calculations that happens with that whole onesie thing I was talking about is when you drop back, there's a point in the draft where these tight end picks are a lot of zeros, and it's just what it is. Now, like, maybe I could have taken like a Jake Tongs, right, to hope to get out of the box hot with Kittle, and like maybe he has a setback or is slow to return or doesn't come back 100%. We've seen him perform. Again, I like Ferguson, but Parkinson's also out there, and I don't know which way the Rams are going to go. They love to split it up. Those guys are very hard to decide on a per week basis, and then it's all choppiness. Guys that are busting have kind of sucked. So Njoku went, Dawson Knox went again. That's like, you're really kind of scraping. I don't think Njoku is garbage. Oh man, Gesicki went and I almost had like a palpitation. So Dulcich fell back to me and I made the picks that I want, and that'll do it. So that was the very first underdog draft of the year. I'd like to thank anybody that kind of stuck around and watched. Oh, you know what? I could ditch the board. I could show you some of the tools. So again, please press the like button. That shit matters more than it should. Check out the Twitter handle and the Substack. Again, the football stuff is robust. I have samples of all last year, so you can see everything you get. It really is robust. Weekly projections for every slate, by the way, too. So I showdown projections plus optimal 150s for DraftKings. I had trouble formatting FanDuel. Every year's a little bit different. But, you get the stuff that you see on the board right here. Uploadable ranks, all color-coded. These go right into the Machina with all the critical stats. But then if you want, we also have all the advanced stuff. This is team defense. I mean, again, everything. EPA and success rate, all the drive efficiency stuff, drive difference, TOP per drive, scoring drive, percent, explosive play rates, all the rush stuff, before contact, after contact, all the pass stuff, EPA per reception, per catch, 20-yard catches, defensive stuff, pressure section, slot section, man zone stuff, defensive alignment, 3-4 nickel with the EPAs on those. You get an idea schematically how teams perform, their defensive back schemes as far as percentage goes. Good luck getting your hands on all this shit for less than $2 a week. It doesn't really work that way. Football data is being gate capped like a mofo. I pay a lot of money for it too. I'm kind of investing that people are wanting to invest back in me. Same on offense. You get all that stuff. We're going to time split it once it starts, L4, L6, L8, or whatever. And then the player stuff as well. QB, all the stuff that I was kind of quoting a little bit. Dropbacks, EPA, off target, completion, all the regular stuff, air yards per attempt, first down per attempt, of course, sacks plus interception percentage, target rate by percentage plus totals, the scramble stuff, the run stats, deep stuff, play action stats, pressure rate, running backs, all the same work on both sides of the ball, end zone stuff, high value stuff. Pass catcher, same thing. All of it, I'm just kind of scrolling. If you end up catching this on the audio, check out the YouTube stuff. Press the like button. You can see on the video how we rock and roll. And then really the piece de resistance is all the differentials. These take a lot of work. They're very hard to get your hands on. And again, the time that you would spend doing it, you might as well just pay me fucking $2 for real. If you're into betting, I think this is a big separator also. You know, plays per game differential, yards per play, EPA per play differential, EPA per dropback, yards per pass attempt. That's a big one. Point per drive differential, explosive play differential, average third drive distance. I tested out all the things that matter the most, and I present them for you. And I make it all simple, and it's all formatted. It's all there, all for you. Right here waiting for you. So by the time that I'm singing, it must be time to get out of here. So enjoy the games. Enjoy the day, and when we're done with the book, enjoy the pay. If you're new, bienvenidos. Check out the baseball stuff. Check out the Twitter. Check out all the fucking socials and all that dumb stuff. And help me get this channel where it should be, because the best ball content just doesn't feel like it's for adults right now. I feel like I'm being spoken to like a child. The deeper theories get pushed to the side. I don't know, there's too much agreement, not enough statistics. I want a little bit of the numbers that we used to get that we don't get anymore. We get more like everybody's agnostic to fucking everything. No one cares about everything. It's like, it's very weird. It's like, we're in the fucking woke best ball era. All right, so we're making fucking best ball great again. Oh my God. Am I going to get canceled then? Who gives a shit, man? I do it my way, honestly. I'd much rather people stick around for what this is than me hustle and, you know, hawk nonsense and grift. Whatever, it's so stupid. Just remember, the most important lesson is always, when you work this freaking hard, man, the winning feels a lot less